Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at both wagertalk.com and sportsmemo.com, when all daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including 5% best bets, normally priced at $35. As an added bonus, any picks packages loaded early for Overnight Tuesday or action during the week will also be priced at $9 until midnight on Monday. So make sure to take advantage of getting these $25 and $35 picks for only $9 before the clock strikes 12 and they return to regular price.
The regular season is a thing of the past. The playoffs are here, and we are here to break it down right here on Puck Time on Wager Talk TV. We thank you guys for watching us throughout the entire regular season. It is now time to break down the playoff games, 4 games a day here in the first round. We will be breaking down here on Puck Time. Of course, best bets at the end of the show, and you guys can find all of our favorite picks over at wagertalk.com. And of course, for today, it's $9 Monday, so every play will be just $9 today at wagertalk.com. Carm, I've been talking about it for weeks, how I just was ready for that regular season to be out of the way, to get into the playoffs, and it is finally here. How are you feeling, man?
I'm feeling great, man. Happy Patriots Day to our friends south of the border. Early baseball in Boston, Boston Marathon, of course, in Boston. And NHL hockey tonight with a game in Boston. So I guess Boston is the place to be today, Andrew, for all intents and purposes. But I'm looking forward to it. The NHL playoffs are here. I'm not sure if you can see what I'm sporting, Andrew, but I'm wearing the shirt you brought me when you came to TO. That's why I'm not wearing my jacket today. I'm looking forward to it. These are going to be some great series. They're so evenly matched up, and a lot of these teams split their season series 2-2. So it's some great games over the next couple of days, and I'm really looking forward to it. It was a great regular season for us, and I'm hoping for just as good an NHL playoffs. I know you are, man. You've been pumped for like 2 weeks. Every single tweet I saw from you on Twitter is like, NHL playoffs, let's get them going. Come on, let's get this thing started. So I'm looking forward to it. Andrew, do you know that there's, and this is a word that we don't use at Wager Talk, but did you know that there is one game tonight that there's an absolute lock on the game tonight?
It's
a lock. Tonight, the team with Sebastian Aho on it will win. It's a lock.
That is, and you can put your money on that as well. Just make sure you know which one wins.
Yeah,
it's funny. I
have no idea which. I have no idea which one. I have no idea which one it is, but there's going to be a Sebastian Aho that wins tonight. I can tell you that much.
That's like people said. Like I was doing a fantasy hockey draft, and somebody would say Kane. And we're like, which one? Which one do you want? And they say Aho. It's like, which one do you want? You don't get to claim the entire last name. So, yeah, it's going to be awesome. Super competitive. What you guys can expect from us, of course, player props, totals, a little bit of series stuff. But, of course, we mentioned this. We're not going to discuss every single one of our favorite plays. Those will be over at Wager Talk. We're going to give you lots of action, have different guests on every day like you're used to during the regular season. And Carm, I will say, a part of the reason why I was pumped for the playoffs, obviously I'm always excited, but because of the regular season didn't go the way I like. So I'm really hoping to bounce back now that every single game means something. Hopefully that can help out my handicapping and I can get back on track. But you had an unbelievable season, and let's try and keep it going here. Today's games, we're breaking down round 1, Islanders at the Hurricanes, Panthers at the Bruins, Wild at the Stars, and the LA Kings in the nightcap here, visiting the Oilers in Edmonton. Let's start things off with our first game, the New York Islanders and Carolina Hurricanes. Carm, one thing interesting about these wild card series is that the teams in the top spot, like Carolina is, they didn't even know who their opponent was going to be until pretty much days before the playoffs began, with how competitive that race was for the 9, 8, and 7 seed there. The battle between those 3 spots. Of course, we know Florida and New York being the teams that end up getting in, but the number we have for you, -170 Carolina, +145 New York. And the total, here we go, Carm, 5.5, heavily shaded though towards the under. we're going to see a lot of these 5.5s, a lot more 6s, and a lot fewer 6.5s in the playoffs. What's your thoughts here on game one, and what do you have for us in this series?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and in a second, I'm gonna bring up a graphic in 30 seconds or so. But you look at this, and this is an interesting series because the Canes are the number one seed, and we saw what they did last year with the number one seed. They couldn't lose a game at home until it mattered in in the series that they got eliminated from. But the Canes are 4-0 their last 4 times in game one, where they've been the number one seed, which they are here. But this just feels like the series where if we're going to see an upset, it could be in this series, because the Islanders are a team that can play some very good defense, and that's why the total is where it's at right now. You got to remember, this Islanders team has 3 times have knocked off a number one seed: 2016, 2020, and 2021. They've knocked off the number one seed in the opening round of a series. So they can do it. Like I said, the most recent one in 2021, this team plays extremely well. It's a matter of, and I talk about it all the time, and we talked about last year, if you're going to take a dog in the series, sometimes you want to take them in game one, because that's the game that they're most likely to steal the first game. You look at the total here, Andrew, and it's at 5.5. And as you mentioned, it's shaded heavily to the under at -135. Ralph Michaels, our stat daddy, who puts up these great charts. Here are the charts for the NHL playoffs. You look at the total, and Andrew, I know that you love that 5 total. You would automatically bet the over on the 5s because there's so many ways to get there. But at the very least, a lot of those 3-2 games would push. And that's the only one pretty much with a positive number, and a very positive number at 59.7%. 5.5s have gone under the total 210 times out of 360 opportunities. So the under is hitting at 58.3% when the total is 5.5. And you can see there's not very many times where you're going to see a total of 7. And that's usually when the Edmonton Oilers are playing, or even Florida last year, I think, against Washington in the opening round, were a 7 at one point. But we're going to see 5s in this series. I honestly believe this series and the Minnesota-Dallas series, that a 5, based on how the first couple games go, we could see 5s by game 3 if these games are 2-1, 2-1 in the first couple of games. With that said, last year, as far as there's one other thing I wanted to mention. Last year, teams that won game 1 went on to win 8 of the 15 series. But overall, teams that win game 1 are 68.3% to win the series. So if you can find the game 1 winner, and I think DraftKings has an option where you can, it's almost like a double result, to win game 1 and to win the series, and you get plus money on it. So anytime you can get plus money on something that is 68.3%, I would take it. So head over to DraftKings if you and no, we don't work for DraftKings. They don't sponsor the show, but head over there, because that's the one book I know that does have it. And if you can find plus money on a series that you like and you pick the game 1 winner, take the plus money. If you can get it, take it. As far as this game, I'm going to take the Canes. I just think last year they showed us great skill in winning all their games at home, pretty much, until they couldn't, and then not being able to win on the road. Whether they've remedied that problem, I'm not entirely sure. But one thing was certain: in that first round, they won every game at home. In that second round, they won every game at home, I believe. So with that said, Andrew, I am going with the Canes tonight at this price. I know it's 170, but I'm going to take the Canes here, and I'll keep an eye on what happens with this total.
Great stuff there, Carm. I'm looking forward to it. There's going to be lots of changes, like you said, throughout the series. We could see it dip down to a 5 if that number gets high enough to the under on the 5.5. And that's kind of the point that you made about home ice was a point that I was going to make right away. Is that in hockey handicapping in general, you want to be careful of which teams are the teams that have that home ice advantage and which teams you can feel comfortable playing on the road. Also, a great point by you about that, the kind of the same game parlay there with win game one, win the series. It's a very popular bet for a lot of these big favorites in certain series. But the way I look at this series is simply this. I think that Carolina and the New York Islanders are very similar teams, but Carolina does exactly what New York does, just better. Like, I think that they play as a team defensively much better. I think they have a lot deeper forward group. They're so underrated because they don't have that many superstars. They just have a bunch of guys that get the job done. They don't score the nicest of goals, but that does not matter come playoff time. They've got some good defensemen, Brent Burns, even guys like Shane Gostisbehere that will jump into the rush and make a difference. My only real worry about this Carolina team is that there kind of was a small goaltender controversy going into this where they want Freddie Anderson to get healthy and put him in, but Antti Ranta is the guy right now that will be starting tonight for the Carolina Hurricanes. So I think it's important for a team to have that clear-cut starter going into a game. But looking at the season series between these teams, we saw some shutdown defense, and I would not be surprised to see an under in this game. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people are going to look at regulation if they don't like that minus 170 on Carolina tonight. But I'll take it a step further and look at this. You know, in the playoffs, guys, instead of looking at team totals over for the team you like, I highly recommend avoiding that and taking a look at the team total under for the team you don't like. Because a lot of times in the playoffs, you don't have to score nearly as many goals to win a game like you do in the regular season. And that makes a big difference because in the regular season, you can take a team total over 3.5. And if that team wins, a lot of the times they will score 4 goals. I think, Carm, you might agree with me here. The magic number a lot of times in the playoffs is 3. So why am I saying this? I think that under 2.5 team total is minus 140 for the New York Islanders. I think that's a pretty good play as well, taking a look at them to not get 3 goals or more, to keep it under 2.5 goals is the play that I'm liking here, Carm. As you know, we see lots of overtime, man, and kind of don't want to get burnt with taking a regulation and you know, all of a sudden it goes to overtime and they win in overtime. That's it always stings. And of course, I probably will take some during the playoffs, but I like that team total under for the Islanders minus 140.
Listen, I agree with you as well too. People don't like unders, and the reason people don't like unders is because no one wants to watch a game where you're hoping that nothing happens. You're staring at the screen and you're like, clear the puck, or any sport. People don't like betting unders, but sometimes it's the right thing to do. And those stats that, you know, like we have from Ralph Michaels clearly show it. To the point of what I was talking about before, of some books do offer that to win game one and to win the series. You look at this Carolina one. The Carolina, as of this morning, were minus 205 to win the series. The Islanders were plus 165. Carolina to win game one and win the series is minus 105. So if you like Carolina to win the series, and you want them and you think you're gonna bet them in game one, you might as well take the Carolina to win game one and win the series minus 105. Conversely, if you like the New York Islanders to win game one and win the series is plus 350. So it's more than double of what the actual series price is. One thing I'm going to say, and Andrew and I talked about this a lot last year during the playoffs, and this is something that Andrew did pretty successfully in the playoffs last year, is betting series prices after game one. Because if you get the right, if a home team loses game one, you're going to get such a better price on that team if you believe that they're still going to go on to win that series. So that's something I wanted to mention, Andrew, because you made your clients a lot of money on that last year.
Yeah, and I think you were involved in those as well. Karma, I think it's a real good call. And I've had people reach out to me and say, you know, how much more do we have coming for the client package? What else can I expect for these series bets? And I said, we got to save some ammo here for the series, you know, save it for after game 1 or 2. And the crazy thing is, you know, think about what you can get some teams if the first team that has home ice, they win both games at home, right? If you like the underdog, you could almost bet them after the split, or if they go down 2-0, and hope that your team protects home ice, right? There's just so many different ways you can go about it. You can bet how many games a series will go, all kinds of stuff like that. And let's be honest, Carm, on opening night tonight, there's a good chance there'll be at least one upset, maybe, so it's a good chance to come back with the next team with that favorite to win the series if you do like them going into things. Speaking of teams that people think, well, might not upset, but people would love to see this team get upset. The Boston Bruins, they're at home. They broke the record for the most single season wins in NHL history. Doing that under the salary cap era as well was a huge, huge accomplishment for this Bruins team. But the job's not finished. I mean, they have to get the job done now. They have to make a huge cup run, and they are minus 225 in a first round opening playoff game. Florida plus 185, total at 6, shaded towards the over in this one. Carm, I'll say this real quick. For different series, I look at things different ways, but some might say that a series starts with lots of scoring, and as the series progresses, it slows down. For some reason, I have a feeling in this series in particular, I think that we could almost see a little bit of the opposite. I think we might see some cautiousness on the part of the Florida Panthers. I think we might see the Bruins' defensive pressure really show the most and how they just clog up their own end. I feel like everybody gave them credit for how many wins they had, how great their offensive weapons and firepower really were. But we still didn't even hear enough about Allmark, who is the front runner for the Vezina Trophy, the great defensive core they have. I know it's the Florida Panthers, Carm, but at the 6 here, I'm actually willing to go under in this game. Florida and Boston. What do you have for us in this one?
Yeah, it just a remarkable series. A remarkable season by the Boston Bruins. I don't think a lot was expected of them. Even the people I've talked to in Boston did not expect them to have anywhere close to this type of a season, and they did. It is a phenomenal season, especially with Allmark. You worried the question mark on Allmark coming into the season because he got blasted in the playoffs, the series before. But lo and behold, this guy has an outlier of a season, absolutely phenomenal. This team wins 63, 64, 65 games, whatever they won. They set a record for wins, points. Unbelievable season for them. Anything short of a cup final, at the very least, making it to cup final, has to be a disappointment for this team. You look at Florida, people in Florida think that they're coming into the playoffs in fine form, and they could be much like if you remember, the St. Louis Blues, who beat the Boston Bruins in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think it was at 19, I think it was, where they just went on a roll for the last 3 months of the season. We're playing playoff hockey, went from bottom of the West to winning the cup. But I can't see them winning the series. Boston's 320 in the series. Florida's 250. Only one other team that has won as many games as Boston has, or had won 62 games or more, has ever been upset in the first round of the playoffs, and that was the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2019 to Columbus. I lost so much money in that series, I would have 2 houses if I could get that money back, because I bet Tampa game 1. I'm like, they're not going to lose game 2, and then they lose game 2. They're not going to lose game 3. I was like that mouse in the mouse trap. I went back 3 more times to lose my money on the Tampa Bay Lightning. But, with that said, it's just going to be so hard to beat this Boston team. Now, Bergeron wasn't at the morning skate yesterday. Not Bergeron. Yeah, Bergeron wasn't at the morning skate yesterday. So he's questionable for tonight's game. I would check, if that matters to you, I would check to see if he's going to be in the lineup tonight. These teams split the 2-game series or 4-game series 2-2. It's got to be the Bruins tonight. You can look at it and possibly in regulation. I just think there was such a great season for them that I can't see them losing this one. If you look at the odds, Andrew, for this series to end, Game 6 is the favorite of all the games for this series to end at plus 225. So they're figuring on a 4-2 Boston series win as the most likely outcome in this series, and that begins with a Bruins victory tonight. I will have a show best bet on this game at the end of today's show.
All right, we'll get that at the end of the show. Best bets, of course, every single day here on Puck Time. Of course, guys, $9 Monday. Every single play you can find right now for $9 at wagertalk.com. We got playoff hockey, playoff basketball. We've got a UFC card coming up this weekend. We've got baseball every day. A lot going on over at Wager Talk. Lots to get involved in. Carm saying check out Boston. Try and find a way to make some money with them tonight. And Carm, I find it hard for Florida to battle in this one. But we'll see how they can do. It should be good. But I'm expecting a defensive effort in the start of the series. And then I think as the series progresses, I look at every series differently, right? Like sometimes I might say the opposite for a different series, but in this one, I think that Florida's going to give everything they have to be a good defensive team. And once they go down 2-0, they're going to have to open things up. And then I think at that point, the floodgates open up. If you told me tonight who wins, but the score line was 3-1, 2-1, 4-1, I would tell you the Bruins won. I think Florida, if they're going to win a game, they have to score 4 or 5 goals. They're not going to beat Boston, I don't think, in a low-scoring game. Would you agree with that, Carm?
Yeah, I would. I just don't see over against the Boston Bruins they played this year, where they just didn't lose, 3-4 games. You know what I mean? And last 2 road team season, it is going to be so tough to beat them in a 7-game series at home, where I think they only lost 7 games all year at home. They won 34 games at home. 34-7, I think, was their record at home. A phenomenal record. I just don't see how Florida gets it done. We always love the underdog story. I just don't see the underdog story here. And again, with those, sometimes that double result, Bruins to win game 1 and win the series is -155. If you can find a book that offers it, that's what the price is. Bruins win game 1, -155 to win the series. And you turn that Bruins series price of -320 into a -155.
And that's a good way of going about it. And all you need to do is have them take care of things at home ice in game 1. All right, Carm, here's the series I think that everybody's talking about as one of the most competitive series of round 1. The Minnesota Wild and the Dallas Stars going head-to-head here. We have Dallas -145, Minnesota +125, total at 5.5, and shaded towards the under in this one. I'll pass this one right over to you, Carm, for your thoughts.
So I was looking up because I wanted to check the scores on this. This series feels to me, Andrew, much like the series last season between Calgary and Dallas. You looked at the games and they were 3-2, 3-1, 4-2, 2-0, 4-1, and 4-2. And then the game 7, I think it was. It's just I think game 7 was the 3-2 game. It's just a series where you don't expect a lot of scoring. I just don't see where the scoring comes in this series. 2 very good defensive teams. We're going to see Ottinger in goal. We're going to see. I have to believe it has to be Gustafsson in goal. I'm not sure why they would go to Marc-Andre Fleury, even with his playoff experience. You go with the goalie who's been the best goalie throughout the regular season, and that's been Gustafsson for them. Another low-scoring series, Andrew. The 5.5 is -120, and sometimes we see game 1s. We see something that won't happen the rest of the series, and kind of like you mentioned, where we might see a little higher scoring, and then they settle in. You might see tonight, but this series just seemed like a series for as long as it goes, and it goes 6-7 games. Both are +200. Figure this game is going to go either 6 +200 or go 7 +200. Winning this 8 or 4-1. With that said, I like the under in this game. I'm not going to get away from it. If we see some goals in this game, I'm still going to come back with the under in game 2 as a play that I like. So give me the under in this one. And in all likelihood, I will do this, much like I've done during the regular season. The team that loses game one, I would probably take in game two. In a series that's going to go 7 games, I could see this happening. These teams winning both away and home. They've shown they can win on the road, and both teams have shown they can win on the road, and they're both very good at home. So whoever loses game one, I'm going to come back with them in game two.
I agree. I could see this being the typical zigzag series, Carm, as we say sometimes. And I remember last year you talking about that, saying, "Hey guys, don't fall into this thinking that it's an automatic bet." But sometimes teams will trade wins in the playoffs all the way until game 7. Sometimes teams will each protect home ice, and sometimes it's just one win all the way until game 7. With these teams splitting the season series 2-2, and winning them in different fashions. We saw each team win one low scoring game and each team win one higher scoring game during the regular season. I don't want to get the joke started early because this team doesn't play till tomorrow, but it kind of feels like the Minnesota Wild are a little bit of the Toronto Maple Leafs of the Western Conference. They seem to be that team that they haven't gotten over that first round hump. And once they do, they're going to be very, very dangerous. They're a team that I believe has what it takes to make a run and pull off the upset. But one thing I worry about Minnesota that I don't worry as much about with Dallas is that if Minnesota's top line is not scoring, Carm, I worry about their production. You're already going up against a really good defensive team with lots of stay-at-home defensemen in Dallas. Jake Ottinger has playoff experience, and then you go ahead and look at Minnesota and how many young players they have, and then even their veteran players. Once you get past them, I worry about the third and fourth line. Physicality-wise, I think is going to be a big thing as well in this series. As we all know, physicality lots of time leads to penalties, which leads to power plays. Both these teams having great power plays, that could determine the total in a lot of different games. And I think that could be a factor with how I bet the total moving forward in this series. If after game 1, we see lots of rough stuff, game 2, and we go back to Minnesota and we see a few power play goals, as you know, guys, that really does impact the total here. But I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to look towards the under 5.5. I see a defensive game here. I see two teams that protect their own ends, two goaltenders I can trust right now. I do lean towards Dallas in this one, but this game I think is going to be very tight, so I would rather just stick with the total. I would be surprised to see 6 goals in this one. Carm, this should be a good prop series because lots of shots on goal, but lots of saves as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing is those save props might be some of the ones, especially when these with the lower totals. We figure the shots on goal are still going to be there, but you're going to keep a lot of the guys defenses keep a lot of the shots to the outside perimeter where the goalie should be stopping them instead of through the right through center down the middle of the ice. But so the save props can really come into it, especially if you can get good numbers on them, and we know who the goalies are going to be each and every night, with the exception of if someone struggles in the first couple of games and they've got an adequate backup, maybe they go to him. But you look at like this this Dallas one that we're talking about, and I wouldn't mind Dallas losing tonight because, and the only reason is the series price. I was tempted to take Dallas in the series price, minus 145. I'm seeing some 150s. But if they lose game 1 to Minnesota, they will be plus money to win the series. And being down 1-0 in this series wouldn't scare me with that Dallas, only because I expect this series to go 6 or 7 games. And if it does go 7, it's that game 7 is back in Dallas. So as opposed to last year where Calgary flipped the tables and game 7 was in Calgary, and it was that nail biter that went to OT, as we remember, and Ottinger literally stood on his head, keeping the Dallas Stars in that until they were out of it.
The best part about playoff hockey is that this game tonight could end 1-0, and we might witness one of the best games ever, right? Like, if you're someone that needs to see high-scoring games, the playoffs might not be for you. But if you like action, if you like lots of chances and great goaltending, this series will be for you. I cannot wait to watch this one, Carm. I better get my steps in during the day, man, because I'm going to be just a couch potato for the next 2 months. It's going to be a lot of TV watching, hours and hours of NHL playoff hockey. I mean, it's going to be it starts at 7 o'clock and goes till 1 in the morning. We got like 4 games a day, every single day. It's going to be a blast. I want to know your thoughts on the LA Kings and Edmonton Oilers series, Carm, because they played last season to open up the playoffs. And this is an Edmonton team that got better, I think, from last year. But it's also an LA team that got better in the offseason and they're at the trade deadline. So I'm curious your thoughts. Edmonton 195 and LA plus 165. What are you thinking here for game one?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the last couple of years when we talk about the Edmonton Oilers, it's the same thing. A top-heavy team who are shaky on defense and thus shaky in goal. You know what I mean? It was the Mike Smith thing last year. So but I think the narrative has changed on this team, and it's more to do with them buying in to finally playing some defense. The forwards are coming back and back checking. They're playing some very good defensive hockey right now, which helps out their goaltending. It does. When your forwards are coming back, your third and fourth lines are checking other teams into the ground, and you're playing better defensively, you're going to win games. This team, since March 1st, were better than even the Boston Bruins. They went 18-2-1 since March 1st. A phenomenal record, 18-2-1 since March 1st, this team. Now, they're playing the Kings, their nemesis from last year. And if you remember, they fell behind in that series 3-2 and then won back-to-back games to win that series. This is a series they should win. They're just playing extremely well right now. You always hope that the old bad habits don't creep back in. But this is a series that they can put away by winning game one and then coming out winning game two and putting all the pressure on the LA Kings going back to LA to have to win game three. This is the Oilers series to lose. We all know that. When the line is minus 260 on the Oilers to win the series, all the pressure is on the Oilers to win this series. That game one, win the series, is minus 115. So if you like the Oilers to win game one, and you can find that at a book, you would take that minus win game one, win the series, minus 115. Not a bad price at all. But this is the Oilers series to lose. I'm not sure about the total, Andrew. And here's the thing, because the Kings showed, I think it was the last time they played the Edmonton Oilers, it was a dead under. I think it finished 3-1. And if you go back and look at the stats of that game, the shots on goal at the end of the first period were 3-2. Can you imagine the Kings and the Edmonton Oilers hitting the ice, and at the end of the period, the shots on goal are 3-2? It was a low-scoring game, and I think the Kings know, if you're going to Edmonton, you don't want to get into an open ice game with the Edmonton Oilers with Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid and crew. You would rather try and play a defensive battle with this team, and with that, you don't see a lot of goals. Hopefully you don't see a lot of penalties either. Penalties are the biggest factor when you're taking overs, because if you don't get any penalties in the game, you're not getting those power plays. And if you don't get those power plays, especially with the Edmonton Oilers and that power play unit that I think is number one in the NHL right now, you're just not going to get the goals. So I have a slight lean to the under, but I'm not going to take it. I'm gonna stick with the Oilers in this game and try not to overthink this one and maybe look at some player props. Although, if the Kings play that tight defensive game, I worry about like taking the higher player props, which are like 3.5s or 4.5s, like right. With Connor McDavid. It's likely a 4.5.
That is one thing of worry for these player props, is that some of these shot props are so high that if there's a defensive battle and a team is doing a really good job of keeping the players to the outside, McDavid might have a good game, but if his number is 3.5, 4.5, it's tough to get over that big number. It's so interesting looking at these series that you have teams that have played last year, but not just last year in the playoffs, but last year in the first round. And this, of course, isn't the only example of that here for 2023 playoffs. But like I said, I think the LA got better, but Edmonton most certainly got better. And you talk about how the end of their season, and I'm happy you mentioned that. And they did have kind of a lighter schedule. There's no denying it. But the fact that I saw them, allowing 1 or 2 goals on most occasions, I don't care who they're playing, it was something for them to be proud about. But I look at this LA team, and again, I kind of look at them, and I think that people just don't talk about them enough because they're such a defensive specialist with a bunch of forwards that just know how to play two-way hockey. I kind of think that LA reminds me a little bit of Carolina because they don't have as many superstars, so to speak. They've got some star scorer players and guys that can put the puck in the net, but they don't have the guys that are making the highlight reel every night. Edmonton has the exact opposite of that, right? They've got a handful of guys that will produce you highlights every single night, and then they just hope the depth will show up a little bit. But the thing is, a lot of people don't realize Nugent Hopkins had the best year of his career, but nobody talks about it because he's just undershadowed by Leon and Connor. Evander Kane, since he came back from his injury, he's been unbelievable for them. And you talk about them stepping up their defense, Carm. Ekholm was the best pickup that GM for Edmonton could have made at the deadline. He has made a huge impact on that team. With all that being said, I think back to what we saw last year from this Oilers team. Carmine mentioned about teams kind of letting old habits creep in. And I'm afraid that for the Oilers in game 1, it might happen a little bit, which is why I like the over 1.5 in the first period in this game. I expect a very fast start. I expect some sloppiness on the defensive side of things. And getting the 1.5 at minus 150 with two teams that know each other, that have great power plays, that have some guys up front that can certainly score, but not just that, some defensemen that are willing to jump into the rush. In a game 1, I'm looking at over 1.5 in the first period. I'm not sure how the full game total will go, but I expect a fast start to this one. And that is my best bet here on Puck Time today. Over 1.5, Kings and Oilers here. First period play to get things started. It's always nice, Carm, when you can cash a ticket in the first 20 minutes. I'm hoping to do so. And guys, for me, I've got a 5% series wager up at wagertalk.com. It is for a series starting tomorrow, but you can get that for $9 today. So if you want to grab that today, get it ahead of time, get it for $9. Tomorrow, it will be back at $35. So again, that package is for a series that starts tomorrow. But if you want to avoid paying $35, get it for $9 today. Also have a pack going with all of my series wagers as well. Carm, what do you have for us going to kick things off for your clients, for the NHL, anything in other sports, and what's your best bet?
Yeah, I first want to mention before that, when we talk about the with regards to this Edmonton LA Kings series, is when I was talking about like Edmonton and how they're playing a lot better defensively, is when we talked about the teams that were so bad throughout the year that we took the shot props against them when they play, like the Anaheim, the Arizona, the Columbus, that were allowing 39 shots, 38 shots were their averages for the season. You look at what the Edmonton Oilers have done, especially over the course of, I talked about how good they've been since March the 1st. And since March the 1st, where they played the Leafs and allowed 28 shots on goal in that game, a lot of their numbers are well below below that 30 mark. And you look at their last few games, San Jose 29, Colorado 29, 23 to the Sharks, 28 to the Ducks, 21 to the Kings, 36, 43 to the Kings as well too. Then 22, 30, 31. They're not allowing a lot of shots on goal, and as long as your D is doing a very good job, you're also blocking shots, and the goaltenders are doing what they're supposed to be doing and stopping sort of the high quality shots as well too. A lot of the games are going to gravitate to the under. The Oilers are scoring, and that's why a lot of their games were going over the total. They weren't allowing a lot, so it's one of the reasons why I was kind of shaded to the wanting to take the under or leaning that way as well too. So we'll see what happens tonight. Game ones are always interesting. I don't think they set the mark for how the series should go as far as totals go. If you're leaning to unders and you see an over in the first game, I still would come back with the under in the second game because I think eventually it will go to where we all expect it to go, which are lower scoring games, as we saw with that stat from Ralph at the top of the show. Now, no soccer plays this afternoon. A plays and props package up for tonight. The Cup 50, I think, expired last night. It might still be valid until tonight. I'll see if I can get it valid till tonight, which is $50 off all the plays for the rest of the NHL season. Up over 100 units this season and number one at Wager Talk in NHL. So let's see if we can keep that going in the playoffs. But 4 plays up for tonight. You can get them for $9 on $9 Mondays at Wager Talk. My show best bet, I'm going to the Bruins game, and I'm going to take a Florida guy, Aaron Ekblad, over 2.5 shots, minus 145. Last couple of games against Boston, he has registered 11 shots on goal, 6 in one, 5 in another. A big part of their offense, and if the Bruins take any penalties, he'll be on the power play. On that point, I say he gets at least 3 shots. I think he's gone over the total 5 of his last 6 games. Aaron Ekblad, over 2.5 shots on goal, minus 145 is your show best bet.
I love those defenseman props, Carm, especially in the playoffs on the power play. Best of luck to you, and best of luck this playoffs. Guys, comment below your Stanley Cup winning prediction. Let us know who you think is going to play each other and who you think will win. Hit the like button on this video. We appreciate you all for watching. Best bet recap. I have the LA and Edmonton over 1.5 in the first period, and Carmine has Aaron Ekblad over 2.5 shots on goal. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at both wagertalk.com and sportsmemo.com, when all daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including 5% best bets, normally priced at $35. As an added bonus, any picks packages loaded early for Overnight Tuesday or action during the week will also be priced at $9 until midnight on Monday. So make sure to take advantage of getting these $25 and $35 picks for only $9 before the clock strikes 12 and they return to regular price.